And welcome to the Carolina Snowflakes Podcast, where two Southerners come to terms with their liberal snowflake tendencies. We're your hosts. I'm Amanda.
And I'm Jason. And we're here with this week's episode of the Carolina Snowflakes Podcast. This episode's called Political Holi-Daze.
Woo!
Which is, appropriate because it's Christmas time. Christmas time. And also everything's crazy in politics. Like the political landscape is ridiculous right now.
It's nuts.
And we wanted to cover it, and we wanted to cover it starting with someone that's familiar to the Carolina listeners in the snow globe out there. Mark Meadows, who's now known throughout the world for his folly, was originally just a representative from North Carolina.
He was our representative.
Yeah, he was. And there was a commercial that used to come on for Mark Meadows that running for House. And was it House or Senate?
House. He was a congressman.
Yeah, running for House. And it was like, Mark Meadows really understands the working class. They got some Yankee that sounded like she was from Wisconsin to read this ad for Mark Meadows in North Carolina. Do you remember that commercial?
Yes, we used to die every time it came on. Just because, listen, we live deep in the ass crack of Appalachia.
Uh-huh.
Most people around here talk like this. So to hear this commercial for our local congressman, and the woman says, Mark Meadows, he really understands the working class.
Yeah.
It was like, no, ma'am.
It was ridiculous.
No.
I was like, in what universe? But apparently people bought it, I guess, because he got elected.
They loved him. They absolutely loved him. And he was our representative for a long time. He won back in 2000, or after the maps were redrawn.
Yeah.
In 2011.
Wow.
And he just kept winning.
I just remember the commercial and being like, I've hated him ever since then. And if you've been paying attention to the news, he's been in the news a little bit recently.
Quite a bit, because he then ditched his job as our congressman and went and became Donald Trump's chief of staff.
Chief of staff, which
Number
is like
4. He was the 4th chief of staff under President Trump.
Arguably, chief of staff might be the most important cabinet position.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. He had a lot of power. He had a lot of influence, and he got there. So let's take a little step back. While he was our congressman, he's part of the reason that the House Freedom Caucus exists.
Yeah.
He's one of the founders of that.
The Freedom Caucus.
Him and the nut job Jim Jordan.
Oh, God, that guy.
Yeah, that guy. And if you recall, basically their entire existence revolved around trying to undo everything Obama did.
Yeah.
And everything Obama said. Like that was their primary objective. And what's interesting is that while he was congressman, and when Trump first announced that he was running for president, Mark Meadows actually was a never Trumper.
Yeah.
I
don't remember him being that, but I could see it. I mean, like, they're all two-faced like that.
They were all, well, a lot of them. A lot of the Republicans who later would go on to be Trump loyalists at first were like, this guy's a nut. Like, we can't let him be the president. And Mark was one of them.
Wow.
But he did quickly change his tune when he realized that Trump was getting all the media attention. Because another thing, if you were in our district, you may remember that wherever there might have been cameras or press, Mark Meadows was there.
Yeah. That
man loved to have himself on television and in every paper that he could possibly get into. Narcissistic much, sir?
Yeah. He still loves that shit.
Oh, yeah. No, he absolutely wants all the attention. So, as you know, and I'm sure our listeners know, Meadows just released a book.
Yeah. I forgot the title. What is it?
It's called The Chief's Chief.
The Chief's Chief. What a lame title.
The Chief's Chief. And it's about his time in the White House as the chief of staff working under Donald Trump.
Ugh.
And I guess it was kind of sort of pitched like a tell-all.
It has to be, because there's so many books about Trump. You have to have something.
Well, one of the biggest revelations that's come from the book is that apparently Trump tested positive for COVID just a couple of days before he took the stage to debate Joe Biden in the presidential debate.
Yeah, he had COVID and he knew it.
Yeah. And this was in Mark Meadows' book.
Oh, yeah. And Trump wasn't happy about that at all.
No. So this comes out, and it was right around the same time, actually, like literally the same week that Meadows agreed to begin working with the January 6th committee to provide information on what he may or may not have known or his involvement on the Capitol riot.
Right.
And Trump hears about this part of the book and him being positive for COVID, and because he didn't read it, it's Trump.
Yeah.
So he immediately gets on, goes out to his Fox News people and is like, that's fake news.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And then I guess apparently Mark Meadows then came out and also said it was fake news, even though it was from his own book.
Yeah, Mark Meadows was on Fox News saying that his own book was fake news.
Like literally a loyalist to the bitter end.
Yeah, I saw that clip. It's hilarious because they're like, wait, that's your book though.
Yeah, exactly. And so then Meadows changes his tune. And as of right now, he has stopped cooperating with the January 6th committee, and his attorney is speaking for him now. And his attorney says, Mark gave you everything that you needed. He gave you documentation. He's not going to do anything else. No interviews, no testifying. We're done. And then the Congress is like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
We are anything but done. So they then formally charged him with criminal contempt.
Right.
For his refusal to answer their questions.
Yeah, and I think as of right now, isn't it? It's in the hands of the DOJ to decide if they're going to charge it.
Right now it's sitting with the DOJ to decide. Well, the charges have been brought.
Yeah.
And it's historic because it's the first former congressperson to be charged.
Yeah, with contempt of Congress.
Yeah. So the charges have been brought. It's up to the DOJ now to decide how they want to proceed with an actual case.
Yeah, right.
If they're going to proceed.
Yeah, I think they will. I mean, Steve Bannon set a precedent where you can be charged with that, and the DOJ might do something. And here's another example, a chance for them to do
part
it.
of the reason that Mark even decided initially to play along with them to do what they wanted to do was because he saw what happened to Bannon.
Yeah,
and he was like, "Yeah, I don't want that to happen." So initially, he was going along with them, answering questions, and he provided like 9,000 pages.
And I guarantee you, Trump told him stop, and so he decided to stop.
Yes, but not before these documents.
That's weird.
And these documents are like 9,000 pages of text exchanges and emails that occurred right around and during the January 6th riot and attack on the Capitol building.
Yeah, and they haven't even said who all the texts are from. Like, apparently we're going to find more out later.
Some are still anonymous, like they're being protected. Some have come out.
Yeah, it's Laura Ingraham was one
Laura
of them.
Ingraham, Sean Hannity, and Trump Jr. All three of those people actually texted Mark Meadows the day of the riot saying, please, for the love of God, get Trump to call this off.
Yeah, which
his
is
own
nuts.
son. His own son was like, hey, Mark, sup, bro? Listen, can you get my dad to call this off?
Yeah.
It's going too far.
Can you tell my dad that, like, this is kind of looking bad?
Yeah.
That's nuts to me that he wouldn't be able to. I would have thought he would
be able to. He would call his own. You'd think he'd call his own dad.
But I guess. Yeah, like, even if you're Trump, you have gatekeepers even from your own kids.
Well, and also Mark had really sort of like ingratiated himself. He had weaseled himself into the world of Trump and was so a Trump loyalist that literally the week before the attack on the Capitol building, he had forwarded an email to the acting attorney general of the United States. And that email was written entirely in Italian. This is part of what they're calling Italy Gate. And in that email, it was alleged in Italian that an Italian hacker had hacked into some satellites and did something to where those satellites beamed signals down to our voting machines here in the United States and changed all of the Trump votes to Biden votes. And that, according to this email in Italian, was how Biden won the election.
Yeah. what's hilarious to me about, I've thought a little bit about this, and I wonder, was the email in like correct Italian, or did he just like type it in English and then Google translate it? So like if an actual Italian read the email, it's like horribly grammared and just wrong.
You know, that's a good question.
Yeah, it might have said like an Italian hacker hacked space turnips and sent, instead of laser beams, it's like sent old grandfathers to retrieve data.
I don't know, but could you imagine being so delusional for your boss that you forwarded an email like that to the Attorney General of the United States?
I could just imagine him.
He did it in all seriousness.
I know, and just knowing him, I could just imagine that he typed it in English and then said Google Translate. Boom, there it is.
Yeah,
it's authentic.
So there were text message exchanges. There were these emails. Mm-hmm. So even I kind of feel like, yes, what he did is contempt, but man, did we get some like great things, some reading material.
Oh yeah,
to peruse in the meantime.
I know, and it doesn't make any sense.
But if the DOJ does move forward with these charges and he is convicted, he faces up to a year in prison for each count and $100,000 fine for each count.
Well, he can afford the money, but
he's
the jail time he's not going to be too happy about.
Mark Meadows goes to prison. He understands the prison class.
Yeah, I can imagine. Oh, wow. So that whole whirlwind of crazy with Mark Meadows is the beginning of the holidays that we're in right now politically. It's been a hell of a year in 2021.
Yeah, we thought 2020 was bad.
Oh, yeah. 2021 was just like...
2021 was a wild ride, y'all.
It really is. And I'm pretty sure the beginning of 22 is going to be rough, too, with this Omicron, and that whole shebang. But we'll get into predictions in a minute. But right now I wanted to cover a little bit of like what happened in 2021 that was historic. Mm-hmm. And the thing... Of all the things that happened this year, and I'm sure everybody that's listening has a thing in their brain that happened, but the thing to me that's like the most infuriating is probably what the Republicans have done with the filibuster this year. So there's been this whole thing on whether or not the Democrats can vote or change the filibuster so that they could get voting rights laws passed, because we've had horrible voting legislation passed in Georgia and other states that are like really bad, infringing on people's rights to vote in a way that's like unconstitutional and like demonstrably unconstitutional. And the idea among people on the left is like, we need to make sure that these laws are a priority, that we fix this problem, because all the other problems can't be fixed if the elections are stolen or rigged or whatever.
Right. You got to start with the foundation.
Right. Mm-hmm. So it's like the most important thing. Not to mention, if you happen to not be white, it's probably a pretty fucking big deal that your vote doesn't count. So there's that.
Yeah.
There's the whole moral side of it as well. And what's frustrating is that because of the filibuster, they can't get any voting rights legislation passed. They have to get 60 in the Senate, and they don't have 60 votes in the Senate. So the idea that the argument that Manchin and Sinema and all these other people are using why we can't overturn the filibuster is that it would, like, the sky would fall. If we overturn the filibuster, it would just ruin everything, and then the Republicans could pass whatever they wanted. Well, so traditionally what we've done is like carve little things out and say, for this particular issue, we won't use the filibuster. Mm-hmm. And this year they've done that twice. The first time, you can look it up. I don't want to get into all the details because it's kind of boring, but essentially there was a Republican senator who wanted to bring up a bill that was not going to pass, but he wouldn't shut the fuck up about it. So the Senate,
like usual.
So the Senate was like, fine, we'll carve out the filibuster and we'll let you propose your stupid bill that won't pass. And he did. And he shut the fuck up. And they just did that as they were like, it's a procedural thing. We don't need the filibuster for this. This guy's just being annoying. But it's proof that they can carve things out, and they're willing to do it when they feel like it.
Correct.
The second time it happened this year was for the debt ceiling. It just happened this last week, is that we were going to hit the debt ceiling and default on our debts in America, which would be really, really bad for like economics and global economics, honestly. It would just be bad. And so the Democrats needed to raise the debt ceiling, and the Republicans were like, we don't want to vote with you guys to raise the debt ceiling, but we don't want to default on our loans. So instead, we'll let you go around the filibuster.
We'll let you ignore the filibuster, which otherwise you can't.
Yeah, we'll let you do it this time so that you can raise the debt ceiling so that we don't default, but none of us had to vote with you.
Yeah, so we can go back to our constituents and blame you for everything.
Right, and that's the deal they worked out, and they did it, and they raised the debt ceiling. Now, it seems to me that if Democrats wanted to, if they are capable of making those kind of deals, why the fuck aren't they doing it with voting rights? And what they're saying, essentially, what we're getting from our Senate right now is that not defaulting on our loans in the economy is more important than voting rights.
Capitalism.
That's what our Senate is telling us this year. And it's incredibly infuriating. I could go on about the filibuster a lot. There's a lot wrong with the filibuster, and I will one day do a full episode on it. But just to know, this is a tiny piece of the clusterfuck that is the filibuster and the Senate in general, if I'm being honest. And it's incredibly infuriating, and I wanted to get it out there because it's been on my chest for a little while.
Well, I think it's also just more proof that capitalism reigns supreme here in the United States. And really, if you think about all of 2021, what a shit show of capitalism values.
Yeah.
I mean, the pandemic has not ended.
No.
People are still getting sick and dying. But by golly, we have got to open our businesses, get people back to Disney World, get people flying across the country on airplanes, get them traveling and doing all the things that they would have been doing before the pandemic because capitalism.
We need our money.
2021 has shown that very clearly.
Yeah, I feel like it's all just going downhill.
I mean, maybe. We got through it, though.
We did make it through it. I mean, it's the end of the year now, so happy holidays.
Yeah, joy and stuff.
I know, like, originally I had said we were going to kind of go over 2021, and then I went, and we both kind of went reverse Alex Jones and just ranted about the filibuster for a little while.
We
but
did.
It's something I feel very passionately about. But there were some good things that happened in 2021, especially around this show, the Carolina Snowflakes Podcast. We have been doing great this year. It's been a really good year. A lot of people have been listening. We got some feedback from a fan. Hey, Kim.
Hey, Kim.
It's been a really good year. You also had something else you wanted to announce.
Oh, yeah. We got approached to do an interview for a magazine.
Yeah. An interview for a magazine for the podcast.
Yeah, so we're working on that currently, and I assume it will be out sometime in 2022.
Yeah, well, we're going to be interviewed in a magazine, which is amazing to me. I don't think that's ever happened to me.
Neat.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. So there's that. That's been really, really cool. It's been a great year for the show. I mean, we've gotten more listeners and more episodes than we ever had before, and more feedback than we ever had before, and it feels really good. So that's been awesome this year. And we wanted to do some predictions for what was going to happen in 2022.
What's to come?
Yeah, because now that we're ending 2021, I thought maybe you and I could do a couple predictions for what we think is going to happen in 2022.
Okay.
So my first prediction is that January and February, we're going to have Omicron everywhere.
I think that's a safe prediction.
Yeah.
Yes, I think you're correct.
I think that we're going to, as a country, be focused on like trying to prevent people from being hospitalized. And we're going to, hopefully in the next few weeks, we'll get that pill approved. I think it's Pfizer.
The antiviral.
That will, if you've got COVID, help you prevent you from being hospitalized or dying.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the focus is going to be, because it seems like we're not going to be able to stop it from spreading all over. Like Omicron's just going to cover the United States really fast. Because there are too many fuckheads out there, I just think that the infection's just going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I don't think a lot's going to change in the way of like the pandemic.
Yeah, it could, but it won't.
No, I think that's going to be a little while. We're still going to have people who adamantly refuse to get vaccinated and whatever else, masking and all that kind of stuff. But, I think for the show, I think we are going to continue to make episodes and put them out every week.
Oh, yeah, that's a good prediction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as long as there are Republicans, don't you all go dying from COVID, guys. But as long as there are Republicans, we will always have content for this show, because it's the glory to shit and mock them. Shit on and mock them.
That all they do is provide material. Republicans are an infinite well of material.
Oh, yeah.
For content.
Great.
Because everything they do is a joke.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. So I heard another joke the other day, speaking of jokes. It says that puns about communism are only funny if everyone gets them. Thought I'd throw that in there.
Is that like a dad joke?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is, but I like it. It's a good one. It's like a word pun. But another thing that I would predict happening, so aside from January and February being pretty disastrous for Omicron, I feel like 2022 is going to give us something with TikTok that's legislative. So the government is going to do something with TikTok because this shit is getting out of hand. We just did an episode on it.
We did.
But right after that, we had a nationwide scare of school threats from TikTok.
Yeah, it was literally like the day our episode came out was talk about knowing things, huh?
Yeah.
Like
well,
intuition.
Intuition.
Yeah, that came across that or came out that I guess there was something happening on TikTok where kids were making threats about guns in schools.
There were kids arrested all over, schools shut down. It was bad. And it was all because of TikTok. And there was a whole thing with them not saying they didn't find any content and they couldn't do anything about it. But the police were like, we totally have it. So it's more of that. And I feel like that's just going to keep happening. And that like 22 is going to be the year where people are going to say, we have to do something about
like legislative, like putting laws or measures in place.
And it might just be for TikTok. I'm not sure. I'm not prescient enough. I can't look at my crystal ball to see that for sure. But I feel like something's going to happen either around all social media or around TikTok specifically.
I think it'll be TikTok specific. And I think so. I think that because, doing the research that we did for that last episode, I learned just kind of how unregulated TikTok really is. There's no oversight. So I imagine you're right. I think there will be something that comes from Congress and it will be specific to TikTok.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's either going to be that or just general social media, because another prediction I have is that in 2022, we're going to hear stuff about the company Roblox and a lot of the things that's been going on in there. I could do an entire episode and probably will do an episode on Roblox one day explaining all the ins and outs of that. But that's probably going to make big news in 22 if I had to predict.
Oh.
Yeah, so there's a teaser for you.
Yeah, a little foreshadowing of what's to come.
Yeah, I got more. So,
okay.
Oh, yeah. Another thing that I think is going to happen in 22 is going to be around like blockchain and cryptocurrencies. There's probably going to be a crash. I don't know how bad it's going to be, but there's going to be some heat lost on it, I think, in 22. I don't think it's going to kill it. I don't think it's a bad idea. I don't even think it's going to really be like a huge crash, but I think there might be a dip that some of the heat might wear off of it, but I think it will weather the storm.
I think we're going to see more support for unionization.
Oh.
Yeah, unionizing.
Starbucks just did some...
I think with that happening, with this small, like just a Starbucks store, forming a union, like actually, I think we're going to see more of that happening. And with, we've talked about this before at our show with the pandemic and people getting laid off and then kind of figuring their priorities in terms of employment and what they want to do. I think employees have suddenly sort of seen the light of like, hey, we have a lot more power than we maybe thought we had.
And I think you might be right. I think we might be seeing more of that in 22. The interesting thing about that Starbucks one is it had me wondering, like, did you notice that the day of, they were like, well, we have the votes for this one store and the union passed. And for this other store, it looks like they're not going to take the union. And then we have this one that they're still counting the votes on or whatever.
Yeah.
That blew my mind because I was like, how many fucking people work at a Starbucks store?
How many baristas do you need?
How long does it take to count to 100? In theory, if you do one a second, it's like a minute and some change and you're done.
Well, maybe I'm wrong, but does it kind of work like the caucuses do, where you kind of ride the fence and you sway people through persuasion, and then they literally walk across to the other side.
I have no
idea.
Like
they do in Iowa,
Yeah, right. Maybe that is what they do. I don't know.
We live in North Carolina, which is historically a non-union state. Like, we do not have the laws and infrastructure to support unions here. So it's a little foreign to both of us. But maybe that's how it works.
I don't know.
You try to sway the person to which side?
I don't know. All I know is on the news they said they're still counting the votes, and I just was like, how many fucking votes are there? There can't be that many votes. It's one Starbucks.
But I think the point being that employees are recognizing they have power.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great thing.
I do too.
And I think we may see more along those lines in 2022.
I certainly hope you're right about that. If anything, I hope you're right about that one. But I'm going to keep all these in mind because when this shit happens next year, I'm going to replay it and be like, I told you.
Yeah.
So those are some of our 22 predictions.
One of the things that we do best on this show is shitting on Republicans. We're really good at that.
Yeah.
And what better way to bring in the holidays and the new year than by shitting on the GOP? And we were thinking, what would make the holiday the worst thing ever? It would be if Santa was a Republican.
Yeah, if Santa was a Republican.
And more specifically, what would that look like?
Yeah.
If Santa was a Republican.
I think everyone's stockings would explode because they'd be full of ammo right next to the fire.
Yes. If Santa was a Republican, his sleigh would sport a Carolina squat. You know that where they lower the truck trucks in the back, and the front sticks straight up to the sky.
Yeah, it would have a Trump sticker on the back.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If Santa was a Republican, cookies given to anyone other than Santa would be banned on account of it being socialism.
If Santa was a Republican, his costume would be replaced with the "Let's Go Brandon" t-shirt.
Yes. If Santa was a Republican, stories of reindeer laughing at Rudolph and calling him names would be removed from written history and retold as Rudolph having a better life thanks to Santa.
Yeah. After he kept them in a cage.
Yes.
Yeah, if Santa was a Republican, he'd still have a red hat, but it would say MAGA on it.
That's true. If Santa was a Republican, everyone would get guns for Christmas and a copy of Art of the Deal.
Art of the Deal. Yes, it's an excellent book.
If Santa was a Republican, he would repeal Obamacare and replace it with coal and petroleum products.
If Santa was a Republican,
if Santa was a Republican, he would make us show ID to receive our gifts.
Yeah. If Santa was a Republican, he wouldn't even give gifts because that's socialism.
That's a good point. He'd keep them all for himself.
Yeah, you'd have to buy them from him.
If Santa was a Republican, he would blame the elves for rising healthcare costs.
That's a good one.
And I think if Santa was a Republican, his workshop would become a sweatshop.
Yeah. If Santa was a Republican, he would say the riots at the North Pole were just tourists.
They were just looking around.
Well, after all that, I guess we can thank God that Santa is not a Republican, and he is instead a figment of our collective imaginations, and therefore can be whatever we want him to be.
That's a good point.
Which is nice. And what I think is a great gift is to have some time off. I think that's always good, especially around the holidays. So we here at the Carolina Snowflakes, we're going to take the next couple weeks to have our Christmas. And we were thinking we would replay some of our best of some of our favorite episodes, so it'll still show up in your weekly podcast. And we'll be back with brand new episodes coming in 2022.
Yes.
So we will see you guys then. If you want to find more of our great episodes that you could listen to on your own without having to wait for us to tell you they're the best of, you can go on our website and find them there.
CarolinaSnowflakes.com.
And we will always be active on our Facebook. If you have any questions or you want to talk to us or other fans of the show, you can find that at
Facebook.com/Carolina Snowflakes.
And if you want to send us an email, a really thoughtful one, you can send that to our email address.
Or an obscene one. CarolinaSnowflakes@gmail.com.
gmail.com.
Thanks for listening. Bye.